Now, I think it's time for us to go on to our next topic, that is building good reputation with other countries around the world, that is in Nigeria here. Because if we look at our visa, the number of countries that we can travel to visa free is just so small. When we have to compare that with other countries, especially in the Western world, where they could travel to up to 90 to 100 countries visa free. So we'll be looking at how we could build good reputation with other countries after this break. Please stay with us. Happy birthday, Riders News. This is Firecrackers. We've missed quite a lot, but don't worry, you can catch up with us. We stream live on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. And now to the topic we have, and that is building good reputation for our countries. Like we heard Dario Nokakam from Yoruba, that is Gani Adam saying that insecurity in Nigeria is not as bad as it is being portrayed by the media. Because whenever things have to do with Africa, the way we usually see it portrayed is, oh, the fire is burning. Things so that are happening there are usually so bad, which might not really be the case. Because if we are to compare things that are happening in Nigeria with even other Western countries, we see that we see our things quite mild here. But perhaps these are the things that are affecting our reputation. So let us even discuss that first. Do you think that when it comes to portraying things that are happening in Nigeria, especially by Western media, or even our own media here in the country, do you think that perhaps we are usually biased and painting it way worse than it is actually supposed to be, which might be affecting our reputation?
Nah, I don't believe in that, really. I think if at all what we have been doing over the years, what the government seems to have been doing over the decades is actually to manage the true reality of what we are going through. It is surprising to know that the level of insecurity in the northern part of this country, a fuller picture of it, in reality, quite a number of us, do not have access to that reality, which is the point it is true that the entirety of our conventional media space, in this country and across the African continent, and not the entirety of the space is not within, the control of the people, basically. It is about those who have the resources, the wherewithal. You cannot begin to talk about the management of, private, telecommunication companies and what have you, what goes into it, communication companies, basically, radios, TVs, and what have you. So I think basically one point must be made clear that such statement by the Are cannot take us to anywhere. A greater chunk of us knows what it is, to go out from point A to point B in this society. And we know, what it takes. We are constantly on the road for some of us. Almost every week you cannot use Ibadan Lagos Expressway. We have not seen, a cup or two cups, littering the ground. That is the reality. We see this every now and then. So when people now begin to tell us that, we should try to, we should manage truth, for international reputation, I think that is extremely misleading. When we did not do so, what did we get out of it? So, it is extremely misleading for anyone to attempt to cover truth, to, max truth, to, tell us to run away from the realities that confront us. So I really do not buy into that kind of distractive mechanism.
Okay, all right. So when it comes to building good reputation, when it's from for Nigeria and other countries in the world, would you say that the large amount of work relies with the government, or is it with the people?
Ultimately, the government. You see, we must understand what the relationship between the government and the citizen looks like. The relationship between the government and the citizen is akin to the relationship a mother has, to her child. That is what it is. The child essentially draws inspiration from what the mother does or what the parent does, under whatever form. The child draws inspiration from whatever, his or parent does. So if anyone now begins to tell us that we should delineate the child from what the child has become, from what the mother is, from the nature and character of the mother, I think that person is only distracting us. The Nigerian populace, both those outside and both those inside, are representative, are mirror of what the Nigerian government is, and which is why for some of us, they don't buy into these elusive ideas that the people seems to be the people is the problem of the people. The people represent the problem of the state. No, that we are the problem of ourselves. such a distracting mechanism that the people is responsible for poverty, when in actual fact, you have a government in existence. I think all of these statements that cannot really bring the people together, shouldn't be tolerated in any way. We think that the government is responsible for the direction of the entirety of the affairs of the country. Politically, economically, socio-culturally, the government directs such affairs, not the people. The government controls the resources. The government controls the military. The government controls all of these basic sectors. So if the government want, good representation, if the government is interested in, a transformative international reputation, then that government should look into, ensuring that the basic amenities are being provided, for the people back home. Government should ensure that they create jobs for the people, because apparently today you have governments across the African continent who are saying that they have no business in creating jobs for the people. They've been saying this every now and then, this nonsensical statement that government do not have business in business or have business in doing business. What an illusive, this kind of mentality is the backward mentality that governs the entirety of the African space. And that is why for some of us, we are very, very passionate about the discussion within the context of the fact that we must hold this element across the African continent, accountable. Development begins with the government, not the people,
Well, quite fine. If the development begins with the government, we do know that in Nigeria, despite the fact that things are not going as we would like, as the citizens would like, everyone wants a paradise, like you said.
Absolutely.
There's no shortcut to that. So if we look at the laws, the laws that we have, the things that government has provided, a very good example would be when it comes to electricity, where we constantly have people vandalizing our national grids. They go there, they steal and then they plunge states into darkness because of the selfishness of probably just few people. In instances like that, do we still blame the government?
You see, every analysis that points to the people being their own problem will always be flawed. There would always be internal contradictions. Every analysis that do not pinpoint, because whatever anomaly you pinpoint in a society, know that behind the scene, the government is there. If you have, poverty in a territory, look at those, that are responsible for it. Now, behind the scene, the monies that are meant for development, the monies that are meant to cater for this and that, where are the monies? So, if the people now turn out to become poor in that society, if the people turn out to become bad in that society, if people in that society becomes, something else, if the people, begins to attack themselves, kill themselves, what the point remains that if the government had done the right thing, you wouldn't have had that in the first instance. So the question of alcoholism, the question of crime, the question of gangsterism, all of these backward anomalies are products of what the government created. The people again are representative of what the government have done. It is like what you put in, that's what you will get out. It is what this government is currently doing with education. They are messing up with the educational sector. They are not putting money into the educational sector. And what is happening? We are getting it right here. The level of intelligence in this society is dropping every now and then. There's a major decline. Question of knowledge, attractiveness to knowledge. Knowledge is not an attractive thing in this society. The more knowledgeable you are in this society, the more people think you are not relevant. That is the backwardness that governs our reality today in this society. And we are being consistently told by some of our youth, in fact, unfortunately, that school is a scam. These are products, these are the things created by this backward government of ours. How would you have a society that would say that, we shouldn't pump money into education, when in actual fact, the survival of every society depends on the educational sector? So the point we're making is that it is the government. If we have, if this society today turn out to become dominated by ignorant people in virtually, it is the government that created this trend. Because we are observing it. For some of us, we are not just existing, we are also observing. And what this government seems to be doing right now are things that will hurt us, decades to come. Because you cannot begin to make the educational sector a commodity and expect transformation in a society. No, it is impossible. You invest into the educational sector and you expect what? Transformation across all sectors, because the educational sector carries what? All encompassing medicine for the survival of any society.
Yeah, but I have to ask this question.
It's such a madness.
Because we are running out of time, but I do have to ask this question. Where does the free will of the citizen come in? Because we all have seen situations where people still blame children who turn out bad because of the situation they found themselves. If we take an instance of a father who is an alcoholic and a mother that is negligent, they have 2 kids. One's turned out to do very well because the person looked at the parent and thought that I don't want to make the same mistakes that my parents made. I want to be better than my parents. And then we see another child that turned out to be an alcoholic like his father because he said, oh, well, I grew up looking at my father. So we have these 2 cases of they both looking at the ones that are supposed to lead them and guide them, but then we still have 2 very different results at the end of the day. So I would say what came into play there is a free will. So despite the fact that we are not really happy with how things are being managed in the country, what about the free will of the people to see that, okay, regardless that we have bad parents, so to speak, but we will not follow that trend because we don't want to be like our parents. We want to be better for our parents so that we will be of good example for our children. What about that?
That could be workable, if we are indeed having an abstractive discussion. But you see, this is a material discussion. This is about economy. This is about things that we need to eat, we need to drink to ensure our survival. So the point being made is that essentially the question of free will does exist indeed. I mean, the capacity of people to become master of their own, to become the master of their own destiny. But what happens again is that we are currently living in a society where equal opportunities are not being given to the vast majority of our people. So if indeed you want to, magically, of course, some of us, we have been able to, beat the limitations of this society as a result of our own, personal homework, personal assignments. I mean, the limitations that this society created for many of us, it's so amazing that you begin to wonder how we became what we have become, over the years. But this is not to say that, quite a number of us can be created out of this society. I'm not going to excuse the fact that the government is responsible for more persons as myself, in the sense that ensure that education is free for everyone, ensure that, people have access to, affordable education and qualitative education, ensure that so I think that ultimately it's about equal opportunity. People can suddenly want to take any free, but you cannot go outside the material existence of the society. Whether we like it or not, we operate within the existing, material nature of what this society is providing us with, in terms of how we control our resources, how we direct the affairs of what we eat and what we drink. So ultimately, we are interested in, quite a number of us populist transformation, not, single individual, kind of transformation.
All right. Thank you so much.